Um, we're going to go ahead and get started in an effort to respect your time available. So Laura is joining us from Axosoft. Everybody say hello.
Hi, happy Friday.
Most everyone here is actually starting from scratch with Axosoft. So any information you can provide going forward from there, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great way to start, just with the very basics of kind of advised setup, some kind of interface tips and tricks, and then we can dive into some of the sprint structures that I know is definitely important in the Scrum framework, and for you guys to, show your professors that you're doing awesome with your work on your video game. So yeah, I'm definitely happy to do that, and I did share my screen, so can you see that? Is everyone able to have that up?
Can you make out everything that's there pretty well? Okay, good. Yes.
Okay. I can increase the size a little bit if needed, but
I think the resolution is a little bit low, but we can kind of make out what's going on here.
Do one more little. Maybe that's a little better.
That is better, thank you.
Okay, sure. Great. So each of you are going to navigate very simply to the URL that is provided when you sign up for your Axosoft account. If you are not working in an Axosoft account yet, I'll shoot, or Ben has my email. You can shoot me over an email afterwards, and I'm happy to get you set up. But basically, when you log in, email address and password, you're going to be looking at this interface. So along the top, we have different tabs. So the work items are going to consist of basically everything you're developing within your game, all of the features, any defects or issues that you run into while you're doing development, or even miscellaneous tasks that you want to track that aren't necessarily features or defects. So those are going to live under this work item tab. We have a dashboard for reporting that we can get into, an awesome release planner that will definitely help you and your team understand who's over or underworked for your team sprint. We'll dive into that today as well. And then everyone does have something called My Items. So if we want to change any of these or basically open up new tabs or views, we use the plus sign at the top. We've got the built-in tabs that you see here, and also other save tabs like My Items, Workload by Person. And as I mentioned, you can save a specific view as a tab, and I know that's something I use on an everyday basis when I work in Axosoft, so we can dive into some of those things later. But definitely understanding how you're finding these items is important. Also, I know that you are working within a team. It sounds like everyone may have the same rights and privileges when working, but for some of you team leads, if you just want to be aware of a user security role, going to Tools menu, People, and then Security Roles. You can see this is a standard Scrum framework. We have developer security roles, a product owner, project manager. So basically, if you do decide that you want to restrict or the permissions for some users versus others, the security role is the way to do that. So as you're getting started, when you're adding users to the team, I would definitely consider that if you don't want to make everyone an administrator. So once users, again, are added to the system, we're going to look under work items. And over here on the left-hand side, we have what's called the Organize panel. So this is where all of the project folders are going to live, as well as your weekly team sprints and the names of your users. And if you even want to organize those users into different teams, like maybe development versus a design team, you can definitely do that in Axosoft and assign items to individuals or to a team as a whole. But everything, like I said, is going to live in the Organize panel, and that expands and collapses depending on how you want to view it. When we're looking at the Organize panel, and if you're looking to get the fresh start, you can see I already have some sample projects in here that I've broken down. I basically advise when you add a new project to Axosoft, we're going to use this quick add, the plus sign right there. Axosoft will assume, since this is the very top level of the project structure, that we want to add a related product to releases. So when you get out into working in Scrum, maybe in a corporation or whatever you decide to do, your own LLC someday, if your structure is something more like you're having a new video game, you maybe have different versions of that game, then I would advise leaving this box checked but it sounds like for your teams, you're just doing the weekly sprints. So it would make more sense, maybe in my opinion, to just leave that unchecked so you can manage your sprints and releases separately. So if you have any questions about that, definitely jot them down. There will be time for questions at the end, but that's just my advice. Structure is just really leaving that unchecked, and we can manage the releases separately. So if we're building, let's say, a new awesome game, or whatever the title of your game is, we're going to list that out. And then it's time to now build our backlog. And then again, we're going to organize the sprints afterwards. So I like to break down my backlogs. If I click on the video game structure I already had, the way that this organized panel works is it filters the data you're looking at in the middle. So when we're thinking about how we want to break down this new video game that we're working in, I want to make it as clear as possible for me and my team members to say, well, I know I'm a mobile developer for this game. Where do I need to see the tasks I'm working on? I can just click on mobile and see what exactly is going on within this project folder versus design tasks, social media, website. So as you can see, just basically clicking on the different project folders here will determine what you're looking at in the middle. So then you can roll up to the very top of the new video game and see the breakdown of, okay, where are different projects lying, where are these items located, and very quickly and easily see that. So if I go to new awesome video game and kind of keep that same structure intact, it's going to keep using the plus sign and really quickly go down and break this out. So design versus dev, maybe again website. And you can break these down even more if you want. So you can have sub of sub projects, excuse me. But really just organizing this again in the manner that makes the most sense to you and your team. Okay. So now I'm going to build a couple of design items in the backlog. So we're going to use the add button right here for a full add of an item, or we also have keyboard shortcuts that you can find by using Shift and P. So if you want to see like create an item, you can just start typing it in, and anything related to that will give you the keyboard shortcut. So I think that command palette's really cool. And again, I'm just a keyboard shortcut fan. So C to quickly create items, ask for titles and any required fields, or do the full add, and it would look something like this. So maybe it's color code new characters, something relevant. What work item type is this? It defaults to a user story, and this is really just a tagging system for you and your team to understand the type of item this is. So is this a general task? Are we building something very big and we want to roll other user stories up to it? Is this a bug? So I'll just leave it as a feature. Defaults to our new workflow step. We'll talk about workflow in a moment, but this should be generic to what you all are familiar with in standard Scrum process. You can assign it to a user or a team at this point, or you can wait. I know it just depends on how you and your group may work. But another important part to Axosoft, even if you feel that you may be terrible at it at this point, is estimating. So even a general rough estimate of how long will it take us to color code these new characters. So maybe it's going to take us 3 days. You'll notice we have these different time units here. They all convert back to each other. So if you do 3 hours or 36 hours, 3 days, whatever it may be, you fill that in there. Add your due date, figure out a priority. And then this is also a customizable field template. We do try and give teams everything they need off the bat without much customization, but you guys are awesome and definitely competent with what you're doing, so I feel confident in just showing you really quickly the edit field template. So if you do decide that you want to add a remaining estimate to this field template, you can drag and drop it over. Any of these other fields that you want to drag and drop, a status, percent complete, whatever that may be, or you can even add custom fields as well. So you can do that and add any fields and organize this the way that you and your team will work best. So see, I changed it and it made everything live. adding a description. I do like the @mention that Axosoft has, because once you @mention someone, either in a description or a comment, they will be notified via email. They can just click on that link in the email and open up this item immediately to see what action they need to take. I need help or whatever it may be. So add your description, @mention folks if you want to. You can add comments, and also dragging and dropping or just very easily adding attachments is also available as well. So then we just hit save and close, or add your due date, save and close. And this is basically how you're building out that backlog. That is what these project folders are representing, is the backlog for these different types of items. So I'm going to just add a couple of more quick things. So we can say, issue with character swinging sword, or whatever it may be. This would be our bug. This is going to take us maybe 5 hours to help and troubleshoot. We want to have this fixed by the end of the month. High priority, save and close. And then we just want to keep building this out. So where I think is probably good for us to go next is just chat about what you can do with these items once you start building them before you put them in the release. So Axosoft has 2 main views that you can utilize. So the one you see right now almost looks like a nice spreadsheet. So you can click on the column headers. If you have a lot of different items going on, this view is definitely nice. Certain columns you can actually filter by. So the priority, you notice when you hover, there's a little filter right here. So I can say I only want to see a certain priority of items. And if you do want to change or add any additional columns to this, there's a gear icon in the right-hand side where we can go to work item and say, okay, we want to add the due date, and then drag and drop the due date over. So really just customize this to get the data that you need easily, kind of front and center. The last thing about the interface is a details panel. It's kind of like the organized panel, only on the right-hand side, and it literally just gives you the details of the item that you're clicking on. So I can interact with this description here, edit or make a stamp, add a comment, attachments, work logs to add your time against this item. So that's a little bit about the details panel and the interface and list view. I know a lot of teams that are new to Scrum, though, really like Axosoft's card view. So you can toggle between these 2 views at any time just by going to list view and then clicking on card view. And now you have the 2 items that is in our design project backlog that we were just looking at, and you can see this on an actual Kanban board. So if I were to remove my project, you can look at it with basically all of the items that you have and figure out, maybe some things from approved need to be moved in progress, or we have a lot in progress right now. Maybe we need to get some items over to ready for testing. And again, this is the default workflow that Axosoft offers, but you can change this if you do want to add an additional step, like in design, especially since you're designing games. So if you do want to ever edit the workflow, you can just click on the workflow button and hit manage workflow. And again, if you have questions about any of that afterwards, but I won't dive too much deeper into that unless you think it's necessary at this point, but just knowing that the ability is there to change this. Again, it's super easy, workflow button. Or another thing too that I'll point out is the tools menu. I already went here to manage my security roles, but you're also able to manage any of the field templates or other settings, workflows, and also evaluate them from there as well. So I'll jump back into list view. Go to my new awesome game. Okay. So now let's say we have a bunch of tasks and you are ready to start your first team sprint. So the reason, again, that when I added this project folder, I did not add a release down here is because I'm going to add and manage my sprints separately. So I'm going to go over to the release planner. And on the right-hand side, this is going to represent the sprint that you're selecting, depending, it sounds like you may only have one going on at a time, so only your active sprints should show here. But basically, if we want to start this brand new team sprint and plan it from the very beginning, I'm going to use this plus sign in this side of the release planner. And I can call this, dev Dev team sprint 1. Something very, very common, or you can say like May 19th through May 31st. And really just label this, again, whatever is clear, whatever makes the most sense for you and your team. So Dev team sprint 1. The parent release is not applicable unless you were gonna have a structure like you see it in the Death Star, or like this other new video game, or you may have a version rolling up. But otherwise, we can just leave it as a standalone sprint. We can choose sprint from our release type. And then all that Axosoft now needs at this point to get you going is a start date and a due date. So we said we're gonna start today, or you said week-long sprints, we'll maybe make it over to the 26th, something like that. And then we can just leave it blank. Axosoft will automatically calculate the capacity based on the users that you're adding in the sprint. You'll see that in a moment. Also, I advise leaving velocity start date blank because it will either default to the start date of your release or when your team basically starts working on the work, which usually isn't until the first day. So just for sake of ease, I advise leaving that blank, and then you can hit save, and there we go. We got our sprint lined up here. So now we have to plan what's going to go into this and get the start of our burn down chart, right? That's the goal. We want to get that good reporting. So when I'm looking on the left-hand side, I'm going to refer to my filters in the upper left-hand corner to just take a quick idea of what I'm looking at here. So I'm looking at work items that are currently grouped by the project that they're in. So I did mention a gear icon before when we were looking at the interface. This is where we go to, again, add additional fields up here if we wanted to, or group by something else. So if you didn't want to group by the project, but maybe you are doing a high priority sprint, or maybe understanding who's assigned to what, you can basically group the work by any of these different fields. So I'm just going to group by the priority just so you can get an idea. You can click on this to get high up at the top. And then I can take the items that I'm working on and drag and drop them over to this release. So what Axosoft is doing is basically taking this start date and this due date and the amount of time that these users are available. So if I look at Darth Vader, he looks like he's actually allocated to sprints and other releases. So maybe I need to unassign this from him and get him out of this sprint. They're obviously not, they're not available, which you and your team may not run into this since you are basically working one release at a time. So maybe it would look something more like this when you begin with. But let's say I'm going to be working on this particular sprint, or me and Stormtrooper. Oops, I already had Stormtrooper. Let me grab someone else. Let's get Darth. He's not available either. What's everyone doing? They're working on other stuff. Sorry, bad examples in my sample data right now. Yeah, hold on. Let me add myself back, and I can even manually override this and say I'm 100% available, and it will still tell me, hey, you have a lot of time in other sprints. See, I'm over allocated in all my other sprints, but let's say, again, sorry for that, but for sake of ease, we wanted to add this user to this particular sprint. We'll do the same thing for Darth Vader. So we'll make him 100%. Okay, so this is how much time they have available. Now I can take the work that I've moved over and I can assign it to them. It should have removed from their availability. And basically update the time that they're available. So again, I'm just going to play with this a little bit, assign my work items out. And this is basically, again, understanding whether your users are over or under allocated. Again, sorry for my funky sample data. I did get off another call where I was playing with this too, so that's why it's a little different than what you guys may experience. But basically, if they're 100% available, you can look at their capacity or any vacation days if someone took a Friday off, or if you are truly only working 4 hours a day, you can update this to be the most relatable to what the teams are actually doing on that day-to-day basis. But once you're done basically making sure that your teams aren't over or underworked. We understand our release capacity. We have about 60 hours left of work that we can add to this based on the availability of the administrator and Darth Vader. So you know that you can have more time. But I'm going to jump back over to work items. And I see now this dev team sprint 1 listed in my release section. So I'm going to click on that. Remove my project folder. Okay, so these are all of the items that I had added to this particular release. And when I hit show charts, we already have this very start of our burn down chart. So we have 34 hours. AxoSoft will actually help you give this prediction of, based on the time that you roughly estimated these items to take you, and the due date of this by May 26th, your team needs to complete about 6 hours of work a day. So over the course of 2 days, we'll click on this V2. So over the course of 2 days, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar just with calculating averages. We need 2 sets of data points. So over the course of 2 days, AxoSoft will start to understand how you're working. And then you basically just need to tell the system how long it took you to complete one of these items, and you're able to start to get this nice velocity and understand, are you early or are you late for the work that's due in this week's team sprint. Okay, so in order to tell AxoSoft how long this is going to take, this item is assigned to me. That's in bold. So I'm going to click on that. I can see I have a 4-hour remaining estimate. Let's say I worked on it this morning for an hour. I can hit W on my keyboard, a keyboard shortcut that I like, or again, the details panel has a section for work logs. I can also add a work log right from here. So I'll say I worked on it for 1 hour. I worked on it, at 10 a.m. this morning. That's fine. And then you can add a description if you like, but AxoSoft will update the remaining estimate for you. We'll update the % complete for you. Or if the user that is adding this work log, they think, hey, it's going to take me more than just 3 hours to update these codes. It's going to take me more like 5. They can manually override that remaining estimate and see that actually just increase my velocity a little bit. And we're still going to be early for our due date, but my velocity did jump from 17.64, whatever it just was, now up to 18. So that is essentially all you need to start getting this information. You need to add a sprint, we need the start date, we need the due date, then you need items with estimates in there, and then your team just to simply work on those items. So whether it be through the work log, if you want that more granular information of how the team is working, or if I went to this workflow step and I just moved it to completed, that zeroes out my remaining estimate and will also update my burn down chart the same as it would like a normal work log. So see, it just bumped it to 19 hours a day. And now I'm a day earlier just based on me doing that. So again, the work logs you can use if you really want the team to drill into the exact time that they're spending, or if just closing out the items, it's really up to you and your team. I think work logs are definitely the way to go for better reporting. And also we have a dashboard widget that's estimated versus actual. So when you add those work logs, it's filling in an actual duration field, and you can look back on the dashboard widget and say, wow, our estimates are way lower than our actuals, or maybe it's the inverse, and that can help you make better decisions when you're adding, new design items or development items, and whether or not you're estimating accurately. Okay, so what do you guys think? Is there other things that you want to focus on before we take questions, whether it be like workflow, other release planning, notifications? Maybe I point it to you guys.
You have questions?
I have questions, but she'd say 4 questions.
Do you have any really specific items that you want to go over before she goes to questions?
Or I can show you some more things. I just figured it was a good stopping point to see if someone had something that they wanted to actually see in the demo right now, for sure.
Last call?
Cool stuff.
You wait. Okay. All right. Somebody's waiting for cool stuff. Do you have any cool stuff, Laura? I think we just
Well,
got a download on
what's cool
stuff.
to them? I mean, do they want to see dashboard? I don't. What kind of cool stuff are they looking for?
I just see the basics, so I mean, I was just seeing if you were gonna teach me something new. That's all. I'm just here to review.
We got
Okay.
an AccessOff veteran in here.
No, that's great. So I already went over some UI tricks. Also, well, I guess let me show you grouping. I only showed you in the release planner. I'm going to remove some of my filters. Oh, actually, I do have something cool I can show you. So I use grouping a lot. So I usually, this is literally like the view that I use every day, because I support all of the AccessOff and Get Cracking customers when they have questions. So I'm always looking at my items grouped by the workflow step. And I also have my workflows color coded. So again, this may be getting a little bit too much, but hey, I mean, I figured it's something I use every day. Maybe you guys would use it. So if I go to the workflow button and then hit manage workflow, you guys can just click these little boxes and play with these colors if you want the background or side strip or whatever it is in AccessOft color coded. So basically looking at that and then going over to this more button in the interface. And then there's a section for color coding. So I can say I want the background color coded by the workflow step. And it will go through and color code exactly how I want it to color code. Again, just making it a little bit more visual for me, understanding these are in progress, these are improved, and saving this view. So another thing I use every day is the custom views that I was telling you about. So let's say, for instance, I collapse my organized panel, I have it color coded by the workflow step, it's sorted by the priority as well. I can now click on my tab, hit Save Current Tab, and call this items by, workflow step, whatever you want to call it. You can make it public or private. It literally saves everything as it is on my screen, so I can hit Save. I can remove this then. I can, maybe add another filter of not closed items, do something like that. Get back to whatever view I'm interested in, and then if I ever need to go back and see the items grouped by the workflow step, I don't have to go through and group again. I can go back to my plus sign, my save tabs, and then I've got items by the workflow step. So again, something useful that I use every day. Something else that you guys may benefit from would be the dashboard. So I know that you're doing some reporting primarily with the burn down chart. I want to bring this in a little bit. But basically you can organize this. Sorry, my mouse is not playing nice, so I'm just going to get rid of it. You can organize this dashboard and share it with Ben and Lynn, or with anyone outside of AccessOft that isn't using it. So basically adding, like I said, estimated versus actual, a widget that might be really beneficial for you, whether it be for a certain sprint or just overall. So grouping the data by who it's assigned to, or maybe by the project folder that it's in, and then hitting save. And you can see based on our different projects, our estimated versus our actuals, as well as our remaining. So that was the widget I was talking about a minute ago. Drag and drop your burn down chart on here. So maybe this is sprint ending in May 26th. Just kind of select it from here. Familiar with that. Yeah, and then just really building this out. The last chart that I like and I think is pretty flexible is our item chart. So let's say we wanted to know how much work was remaining across our users. We can call this work remaining by user. Come down and I basically am going to just go right down to the chart type, and I can change this, maybe a pie chart. If this is by the user, I use my kind of grouping thoughts to say, okay, well, I want to group by who it's assigned to. And then I did mention the work remaining, so I need to do the sum of our remaining estimate. And this is obviously very flexible. You can do whatever you want with this, group by any different field value you'd like, but just to kind of show you basically what you can do here, I would want a little bit more room. There we go. So then you can look at the work remaining by user. You can see that the Admiral has 54 hours of the total of 188 hours remaining across all of our projects. Or maybe you select just a specific project folder, really whatever you want. But I think that's, again, just a quick visual of understanding what's on everyone's plate, how much time is available, and the dashboard can then be shared with a public link. So those are I guess some cool things, the color coding, the saving of the tabs, and the dashboard.
Very good. All right, let's get to questions. And then, Laura, I'd like you to do a brief of Get Crackin' if you have the time.
To be completely honest, the demo of Get Crackin' is not something I have the ability to do at this point.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. That wasn't slated for today. Did you have some questions?
Yeah, when you either color code stuff, change the view to the other view, not the list with the tile one, I think it is, or if you sort by different options, does that go, like, does everyone see it that way, or is that just for you?
The color code would be just for you. The colors you choose are global, but if you know, one of your colleagues wanted to color code the side strip by the status, where someone else wants to color code the side strip by the priority or workflow step, it's up to the user.
Oh, okay. And what about the on the gear icon where you can add different sorting? Is that global or just for you as well?
That's also just for you.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want to, like if you are a team leader and you want to set up an ideal view, you can do that. So if you went and you organized your columns in a way that was preferred to you, and if you have certain filters applied, when you're adding your new users, I'm just going to go to people and users, add a brand new user. You can just start typing in, copy the user settings from whomever has created this ideal view, or if it's something you want default for every new user, there's a more button and manage new user defaults where you would just type that in and it would be global.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Any remaining questions for Laura? Okay. I think the majority of the group here today are new users, and so you'll probably need to dive in and get your hands a little dirty with the AxoSoft before you have additional questions. Laura, I have your email, so I'll go ahead and post those for our users, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, of course, I appreciate all of your time, and looking forward to you guys diving into AxoSoft and taking what we learned today and, you know, putting it together. And like Lynn said, if you have questions, I'm absolutely available over email, no problem, or you can even call me, and, you know, I'm happy to jump on a quick screen share with you if you need to.
Fantastic. Let's tell Laura thank you. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks again, Laura, and we'll be in
my
touch.
Pleasure.
All right. I'm going to stop.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.